listening to Crystal Clear Lore, a Wormsong production. In the year of our Lord 1587, the border hills between England and Scotland lay parched under a sun that refused to yield. Crops withered in the fields of Elsdon village, and the cattle grew thin and restless. Old Maggie, the herb wife, whispered that the fairy folk were quarreling again.
The summer queen walks restless,
she told young Thomas Lynn, the shepherd's son who came to her for remedies.
Mind the hollow hills when the moon is full.
Thomas had little time to listen to such tales, let alone decide if he believed them. Failing flock and his mother's wasting cough, he carried the weight of his father's failing flock and his mother's wasting cough. The village priest railed against pagan superstition, yet even he crossed himself when the night winds carried distant laughter. On Midsummer Eve, with the air heavy and the stars unnaturally bright, Thomas climbed the slopes of Eldian Hill, seeking a lost ewe. The mist rose thick as milk, and the world tilted. He found himself beneath an ancient oak whose branches formed a living arch. Music drifted on the air. Pipes and bells, sweet enough to ache the teeth. A woman stepped from the shadows, tall and radiant, her gown woven of living leaves and summer roses. Her skin glowed like honey in firelight, and her hair shimmered with every shade of ripening grain. Around her throat hung a torque of golden rowan berries. Though he had never seen her, Thomas knew her name as surely as he knew his own. Titania, he breathed. The queen smiled, and the smile held both warmth and the edge of a blade.
Mortals so rarely speak it truly anymore. Come, Thomas Lynn. Your world sickens from our discord. Walk with me for a while.
He should have refused. She was an ancient, powerful being that should have inspired fear. Instead, he only felt curious and followed her beneath the hill. The realm within was a riot of eternal summer. Flowers bloomed in impossible profusion, and fruits hung heavy on every bough. Tiny fae darted like fireflies, peas blossom sprites and cobweb weavers attending their sovereign. Yet beneath the beauty lay something fevered. The leaves trembled though no wind stirred, and distant thunder rolled without a cloud in the sky. In a glade paved with moonlit stones, a tall, dark-haired man paced. It could be none other than Oberon, with his eyes burning with jealous fire.
Our quarrel spills into your mortal fields,
Titania said, her voice like flowing honey over stone.
Our quarrel spills into your mortal fields. He demands the changeling boy I fostered, the child of a woman who loved me more than mortal men. I will not yield to him.
She turned her gaze on Thomas, and he felt the full weight of her attention, hot and fevered as if standing too long in the sun.
But now the land suffers. Blight spreads. You know this, as you've seen your mother's breath grow shallow.
Thomas's heart clenched. What must I do? Titania's fingers brushed his cheek. Her touch was cool and electric.
Serve me tonight. Speak for me before the king and carry my token back to the waking world. In return, I shall mend what is broken. Summer will return. Your mother will breathe easy again.
Oberon's laugh echoed from the shadows. Beware the bargains of queens, mortal. She offers summer, yet her temper's winter's own. Drama unfolded in the fairy court as the night deepened. Titania seated Thomas beside her on a throne of woven hawthorn and commanded him to recount the virtues of her fosterling. He spoke haltingly at first, until the visions came. Then he began to plead passionately, describing the boy's laughter, the love the changeling held for the queen, and the cruelty of severing such bonds. Oberon countered with tales of stolen children and the she's pride. The court swayed between them, their eyes bright with cruel delight. As arguments flew, horror crept in at the edges. Time slipped strangely. Thomas watched a fairy maiden dance until her feet bled flowers, then collapse into dust with a sigh of pleasure. A mortal servant, perhaps taken decades earlier, offered him wine. The man's eyes were hollow, his smile fixed. "Drink deep," he whispered. 100 years may pass as a single night, or 1 hour can devour your life entirely. Thomas refused the cup. To drink or eat while in the land of the fairy was to remain there forever. He still had unfinished business in the mortal realm. His refusal was noticed by Titania. Her expression softened with something like fondness, yet her grip on his hand tightened.
You are wiser than most. Stay with me, Thomas. Be my knight. The mortal world is harsh and brief. Here, summer never ends.
The temptation was terrible. Her beauty was not mere loveliness, but power made flesh, the promise of endless abundance. He thought of his mother's labored breathing, the empty granaries, the way the priest's sermons offered only cold comfort. Yet he remembered old Maggie's warnings.
Fairy gifts always carry a price. Love from such beings twists the soul.
"I cannot," he said at last. "I will speak for your cause, but I must return." Oberon's eyes gleamed with triumph and pity. Titania's face darkened. For a moment, the glade chilled. Roses withered on her gown, and frost rimmed the leaves. The horror of her full displeasure washed over Thomas like a wave. He saw visions then. Fields swallowed by endless winter, his village buried under snow that never melted, his mother's grave overgrown with thorns. The Summer Queen's wrath could birth eternal autumn. Then she mastered herself. The warmth returned, though strained.
Very well. You have spoken truly. The boy remains mine. Take this token.
She pressed a rose into his palm, petals of living flame that did not burn.
Plant it on your mother's threshold. Summer will follow.
The journey back was a blur of music and mist. When Thomas emerged from the hollow hill, the sky was paling with dawn. Only one night had passed, yet he felt aged. His clothes smelled of roses and wild earth. In the village, the first rains began as he planted the fairy rose. By midday, green shoots pushed through the cracked soil. His mother's cough eased by evening, but the gift was not without a price. That summer proved both a blessing and a curse. Crops grew lush beyond measure, yet the villagers grew restless and dreamy. Children wandered toward the hills at twilight. Old Maggie took Thomas aside one night, her eyes fearful.
You bear her mark, lad. The queen does not forget those who serve her. She may call you back when the balance tips again.
Years passed. Thomas married, raised children, and watched the land thrive. Yet on certain midsummer nights, he heard pipes calling from Eldion Hill. Sometimes, in dreams, Titania appeared, radiant and sorrowful, offering him a place at her side.
The mortal world fades.
She whispered.
Summer endures. Welcome back to Crystal Clear Lore. I'm Crystal Lance, and currently both Brady and I are slowly sweating to death in the summer heat.
Yeah, it's like a bajillion million degrees plus a billion.
We had a heat spike where we're at, so it went from like mid-70s up to high 80s with no warning, nothing.
I mean, it was only in the mid-70s for like a couple hours of the day. The rest of the day was like in the 60s for the most part for like weeks now.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's just hot. It's just really, really hot. But I know our European friends over there kind of already had their heat wave, so.
Yeah, which they don't have AC, so that's worrying for them.
Yeah, I guess we can't complain too bad, though.
This is true. It's summer, so it's hot.
But we don't have AC, so we're just like them.
Oh, you know what? That's true. We don't have AC.
We Americans do, but we, as in Crystal and Brady, don't.
No, we do not. So it is what it is. So this week we are talking about Titania. She is the summer queen of the Seelie Fae.
That's a lot of words that say stuff.
So there's like two major fairy courts, right? Or the she courts, as they probably prefer to be called. They don't really like fairy in a lot of modern tellings. There's the summer or Seelie Fae, and then there's the winter or unseelie Fae.
What's Seelie?
Blessed, happy, or fortunate.
Okay. Then they consider summer more fortunate.
It's when food's available.
Makes sense.
People don't die usually from the heat as much as they do from hypothermia and the cold. People do die, we've saw that in France, but not as many. Like the cold is definitely a harsher killer.
Yeah, we would know that up here in Idaho.
So Titania herself, she governs on her spectrum of the Seelie Fae courts. She's the one that governs nature, fertility, and then her own little court in the other world, fairyland, whatever you want to call it.
Fae world?
Fae world.
Fae land?
I think in the story we call it the land of fairy because that's what it's called a lot.
The land of Fae?
Yeah. Fae, fairy, whatever you want to call it.
I don't like the word fairy.
Fair. I don't think they do either, probably. Let's be real.
Well, it has that extra syllable it doesn't need.
Well, that's why I think they play the she the best. She is best known as the regal, albeit quarrelsome, consort of Oberon in William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh.
Her origins are much, much, much older. She is British and Celtic in origin, at least as far as I could tell from the lore. Her specific designation, the Summer Queen, is definitely a more modern take on her status, especially due to the popularity of fantasy in general, not to mention D&D. But her name originates not in folklore like in she folklore, fairy folklore, but in classical literature.
Like Shakespeare, like you just said.
Well, actually older than Shakespeare. It seems like Shakespeare took her name from Ovid's Metamorphoses that was published in 8 CE.
That's a gear you just don't think about.
Yeah, who thinks about 8 CE? Titania serves as a title for daughters of the Greek Titans, most notably applied to the goddess Diana or Artemis. Again, Roman versus Greek.
I kind of figured it had something to do with Titans.
That's probably where Shakespeare got the name. In one part of Metamorphoses, Ovid describes Artemis bathing in a sacred grove, emphasizing themes of chastity, divine power, and transformation, motifs that very closely resonate with a lot of she lore, fairy lore. I'm just going to use fairy lore or fae lore because the she's messing me up on whether or not I'm talking about the fairy folk or if I'm talking about she as a pronoun for Titania. Shakespeare probably drew this name to lend his fairy queen an aura of ancient grandeur and otherworldly authority because he was educated in the classics, so he would have been familiar with this work, even though I'm not. As a result, the name and the way that she was portrayed in Shakespeare's work elevated her above anonymous folk traditions, and they associated her more with classical goddesses who bridge mortal and divine realms. They put her on par with a lot of Greek gods just by doing that. Now, pre-Shakespeare, the Fae Queen typically does lack a fixed personal name, and this is for a couple reasons. One, telephone game. Hard play back then. People did not write stuff down, so you had a lot of telephone game stuff happening. So we're going to go back before Shakespeare, and the Fairy Queen typically lacks a fixed personal name. There's a couple reasons for this, because one of them is that everybody was kind of playing the telephone game before, we started writing stuff down.
Yeah, I whisper in your ear, the cat is blue. And then by the time it reaches the chain of people, 70 people down, someone's like, the bat has brewed. So just in case somebody didn't know what the telephone game meant, it's basically the analogy of when you pass down a message over time without writing it down or having any kind of medium of truth, then there's always something that gets lost or mistranslated or miscommunicated or somebody exaggerates or makes stuff up along the way. Or the story always changes is my point over time and over deliverance.
That's very true. The second reason that I think that she doesn't really share her name is the Fae are obsessed with names. If they ask you for your name, do not give it. Give a fake name. A lot of people do that. It works.
So why are they so obsessed with names? Is there any kind of reason given?
Names have power. Your true name has more power over you than a random name that someone makes up.
That's technically true.
Yeah.
If someone's shouting in a dark room, Steve, or baseball bat, I'm not going to respond. But if you yell my name, yeah, I'm going to be like, okay, what? I've been summoned.
Exactly. So there's a lot of nomenclature-esque lore that goes off of names. So I always kind of wonder if it's just kind of a mix between the two. She never gave a true name. She goes by many names because, But for all intents and purposes, we'll call her Titania.
Okay.
Because Shakespeare dubbed her such. Her original British and Celtic traditions speak of a majestic ruler of the Fae or the otherworld, And she's often called the Queen of Elfheim in Scotland, like elf home. Home of the elves.
Yeah, that makes sense, but we're talking about fairies.
In the books of Shannara, written by Terry Brooks, that started in the 80s, and I'm only now just catching up, and I still have so many more to read. The elves have always been around, and they're like traditionally Tolkien-esque elves, right? But they're also fae creatures.
Oh, so like fae type.
Yeah, they're like a subclass of fae.
Okay.
Like they have magic, and they do all the elf stuff that Tolkien said.
Do fairies have long ears too?
Some do. Some don't, but a lot do.
I just have to ask. It's a weird spot to ask this, but I was just thinking about it. You said something about her name was the Summer Queen.
Yes.
Is there a Spring Queen?
Okay. Yes and no. So there's Summer Queen and the Winter Queen are definitely the major two courts. However, there might be several other courts that are minor nobility or minor monarchies within the Fae realm, but there's like no consistency on it. And ACOTAR doing what it did not help clarify any of the lore, because instead of the normal 2, 4, or 6 courts, SJM went, let's do 8. And I get it. Like, she was very thematic. It was fine. But like, oh my God, I am struggling. There was so much lore to dig through into this episode. So possibly there is a spring or autumn court. They would probably be minor.
Okay, I'm just wondering because there's in a Led Zeppelin song, Stairway to Heaven, they mentioned the Spring Queen, and I was always like, I don't know what that is.
It
always sounded like a fairy tale type of thing, and it kind of might be dead on that.
So the Queen of Elfheim, to get back on track, actually popped up in 16th century witch trial records. And they are some of the best primary sources, unfortunately, for this episode. And I have complex feelings about this.
Well, let's hear it.
So the two most famous cases where she's mentioned is the 1576 case of Bessie Dunlop and the 1588 trial of Alison Peterson. Both of these individuals were accused of witchcraft, because how dare, and they described encounters with the Queen of Elfheim, who offered healing knowledge, prophecy, and glimpses of a beautiful yet dangerous she-court, fairy court. I have very complicated feelings about this, because we also know, looking back, that a lot of these were lies, because the women were being tortured.
That gets dark and she gets triggered.
I hate the witch trials. It angers me. Good reason. Okay. The Ballad of Thomas the Rhymer, which was rooted in centuries that were dated back to the 13th century. This is where you start seeing the queen as kind of a more seductive and sensual character. She's still prophetic here, and she, guides the poet to Elfland or Elfheim, but she's sexy here. They gave her some sex appeal.
Give her a little riz.
Because that's what she definitely needs, is more riz. In Thomas the Rhymer, the section that she actually says, I am but the queen of fair Elfheim. And then these older accounts, so pre-Shakespeare accounts, they really kind of just portray her as she's a big, powerful sovereign, deity, creature, fairy.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's sovereign is an basically old-timey word for God or something like higher power.
I would say a queen, monarch. Sovereign is usually monarch.
Because it implies everyone else below them is underneath them.
Yes. So she is the sovereign of fertility, magic, and then I would say the liminal spaces between worlds. And before anybody gets triggered, because I said liminal spaces.
Ooh, the back rooms.
The way that the land of fairy kind of is there's the modern world, right? There's a world we live in, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the afterlife, right? Where we go, we die, whatever afterlife you believe in.
Yeah, the boring life.
Right. In between is kind of where I'm talking about. It's the land of fairy, and it's not exactly, it's just the land of fairy is very shifting, and it's very chaotic, and it kind of just changes on a whim, and it's not stable at all.
Oh, okay. So in Puss in Boots?
I forgot about that. Yeah. We haven't watched that in a while.
Yeah, that was probably the best representation as far as, at least that's what you said when we watched it.
Is that the Last Wish one?
Yeah, that was a great movie.
That was very good.
That was a surprising banger.
They'd always talked about Scottish lore, but even the Irish lore kind of features figures that could be attributed to Titania. There is Anya, who is a fairy queen that's linked to summer, the right to rule sovereignty, and then the sun. However, one interesting note that I found in my research, so everyone always if you think about a king and queen, right, and you think about them together, you think, oh, they're so in love, and they always work together to better the nation, and it's great all the time. And that little stereotype that definitely happens where it's a unified royal couple, that is absolutely not how she works with her husband.
No.
Her husband and her have some major battles. They don't like each other all the time, and I feel that's fair.
Got some domestic issues?
I mean, not anything super horrifying. But like Oberon is her king, but she is the best way to describe the relationship and power dynamic between Oberon and Titania is like Queen Elizabeth II and her husband, Prince Albert. So where Queen Elizabeth II, she was queen in her own right, and she ruled in her own right. Her husband, Prince Albert, had less, he was treated more like a royal consort, or traditionally what a queen would be treated as, right? There's some power, but all the big decisions went through Elizabeth. So that's kind of how it is with Titania. She's the sovereign in her own right. She's her court. She's the queen and the subject.
Got it.
And although Oberon gets called king, he is not a king in a sense that we would recognize. He is more like a queen's consort. Does that make any sense? Because this feels complicated once I get into politics of the Fae.
That kind of stuff never makes sense to me, but I think it will to the audience.
I hope so, because it's complicated no matter which way you look at it. The Fae live for so long that they have such complex rules because they live forever and can remember them all.
I see. I just know them as the things that saved my life in Zelda.
Hey, listen!
The little glowy guys.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, they saved your life.
The pink ones, right? We're not going to talk about the blue one.
I don't know what color they are.
Those are pink. The ones you get in the bottles are pink.
Well, they're not in bottles in Breath of the Wild, but we won't go too far down the rabbit hole.
I forgot you don't put them in bottles. I'm so used to Ocarina of Time. I'm like, you get 4 bottles, you put the pink fairies in the 4 bottles. You have Navi, you want to squish Navi, but you don't. And then you have like the yellow and purple Tattle and Tail Majora's Mask. When we get back to Titania, we look at all the folklore, the Anya, Irish queen that was brought up, all the stuff from the Scottish witch trials, Ovid's Metamorphoses. It just gave Shakespeare like all this material to build Titania out of. So she's definitely the queen of Elfheim. She's definitely the summer queen, but her name and the way that Shakespeare kind of played with it in A Midsummer's Night Dream doesn't, I don't know, it's like unique, right? So she gets a lot of her modern stuff from Shakespeare. In the play, which is kind of referenced in our story, is she's, fighting with Oberon again because she doesn't like her husband. She influences weather, crops, and human fate. She is very much an influential factor that we did not have a name or a greater scope of an idea about until Shakespeare wrote that play.
I'm starting to think most folklore came from people needing to grow some crops.
Yeah, there's a lot of farmer stuff. And it's also the time of year where we're going to talk about more like spring and summer things, and that's directly related to crops.
Fair enough.
In the play, as Queen of the Fairies, she presides over a nocturnal realm of enchantment, attended by 2 sprites like Peas Blossom and Cobweb, who I had to put in there because most of her lore comes from Shakespeare. So I just stole a lot of Shakespeareanisms. Shakespeareisms?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. Billy Shakes. I done stole off of Billy Shakes. He can sue me. He's dead.
I'll be his lawyer.
How dare you?
Brady, zombie lawyer.
I have been betrayed. I'm looking for a new producer now for this one. Apparently he's trying to stab me in the back.
I just wanted to be a zombie lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Seemed like a good opportunity.
Will you sabotage the case?
We'll talk about that behind the closed doors.
Oh, that hurts. I'll settle out of court. So post-Shakespeare, it is pretty much the same. Everything that's kind of brought up in Shakespeare is what she is post-Shakespeare. Now, everything builds off of Shakespeare for the modern day. The character has really influenced like Romantic and Victorian literature, but not really in a way where you see the summer queen motif until really recently. Like it's probably a couple 100 years old at most for the summer queen motif to really hit. In Dungeons and Dragons, particularly because I DM way too many groups, so I'm very familiar with her.
Was wondering if this was going to come up.
SD&D. Titania is the summer queen of the Feywild, with the leader of the Summer Fae and the Seelie Court. That's literally what she is listed as.
So accurate.
And she appears as a radiant Eladrin, which is a Fae folk, so that's their Fae folk race, of immense beauty with honey-colored skin and hair like autumn leaves, wielding power over growth, light, and wildfire. She's described as like possibly the mightiest archfey, which is important. She embodies compassion, mercy, and strategic pragmatism, watching over pixies, dryads, and other benevolent fae. And that is so far, that is the most, like, we made her look super nice, and she's definitely not going to do anything terrible because she's such a good person.
Whitewashed.
Yeah, I want to say, this sounds icky to say whitewashed, but because she's not white.
I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean like culturally whitewashed.
Yeah, she kind of got the whole, it's fine treatment. Like, don't look over there. It's all good. She's not like that at all. It's literally just cultural shifts. There's no lore-based reason for her to be portrayed that way.
It's just how people want her to be.
Exactly, which bothers me, because Shakespeare really dramatized like the marital and natural harmony between her and Oberon, but modern fantasy really likes to separate the fairies into good summer and evil winter fairies.
Yeah, well, winter is evil. Kills everything and everyone.
It's not. I mean, look, the Winter Court have their issues. We're going to talk about them later in like 6 months. But they're not evil per se just because they're Winter Fae. Like there's good and evil on both sides. And so to say like, oh, well, Titania is the queen of the summer court, so obviously she's fine. She's not a patron of this goodness and creativity and wow, it's beauty, blah, blah, blah. She's literally an old ancient power and she will fuck you up. And she will not care. Mortals are like playthings to Fae. They do not really care that much if they fuck you up.
Can we do an episode about like a pillow or something that's not going to fuck us up?
No. It really bothers me that they keep casting her in this like holy happy light of everything's fine and good. And it really bothers me, but it's fine. So her like worship by non-evil Fae or like the good Fae, and they're so kind and they're so wonderful. It has no org basis. So if you guys are like, why is she portrayed that way? Literally because it works in the game or it works in whatever literature she's in. She has no basis of that in folklore. Do not fuck with the Fae.
I don't plan to.
Good, just don't. She is a seasonal ruler, so I think we kind of talked a little bit about this in Yule. It's been a bit. But at Yule, right, the Holly King gives up the throne to the Oak King in a lot of pagan traditions, and then the Oak King holds that until Litha, and then he gives it back to the Holly King. The Holly King is Santa. Fight me. So we passed Midsummer, and so now the Holly King is sitting on the throne. But another thing that happens is that at the equinoxes, the spring equinox and the fall equinox, the Fae Queens swap power too. So Titania comes into her power on the spring equinox, and she gives it over to her, I want to say cohort, Mab, at the autumn equinox. And then, of course, her strongest day is Midsummer, because she's directly tied to the sun.
Well, all right.
It's fascinating to how everything is on a calendar if you think about it. The Faes are on the equinoxes, the Hoke and Ollie King are on the solstices.
Nice and organized.
Yeah, it's almost like everything just works out. It's strange. So something to keep in mind, if you ever decide to fuck with the courts, make sure it's not their season. Just do it in a different season. It's fine.
Here we go. That's like a cheat code.
So, like, few rules of the Fae, just to gloss over them, because it's near the end of the episode, so we're just going to go a few. Do not eat their food, because you will be stuck in the land of fairy forever. You will never be able to leave. Always carry iron. They are allergic to it, so very nice to make them aware. And of course, steel was, because it's derived from iron, steel does count.
Oh, good. So basically every sword.
Pretty much everything. It's great.
I don't think there's a lot of iron bullets.
They still make those out of lead, right? What about buckshot? Is that lead?
Lead core.
But what like buckshot? Like you put
Well, buckshot, I think, is lead.
Okay.
But I'm sure you can buy different substrates.
Probably. I don't know. I'm not a big gun nut, so I actually have no idea about that. And then there's like the big rules, like they never say thank you to a Fae, because if you do, then you'll be bound by their rule of reciprocity, which is, oh, I did something for you. You have to do something for me.
And you probably don't want to do their dirty deeds.
Trust me, you don't. It's never good. It's what it is. Like they are what they are. They are these ancient creatures that live pretty much forever, so don't screw with them. But
they'll be like, cheat on my taxes in your name. Don't worry, you won't get caught.
They do. I mean, if you have to bargain with them, they can be powerful allies, but expect them to try to stab you in the back. Also, they are very good at wordcraft and wordsmithy. I almost forgot about this. They cannot lie, but they're really, really good at walking around the truth.
Oh, okay. So when they're doing mental gymnastics, you know they're trying to lie.
You just have to watch what they're saying, right? Because sometimes they'll be like, well, I didn't see so-and-so do this. That doesn't mean that they didn't do it, right? Well, if I didn't see Brady stab her in the face, does not mean that Brady didn't stab her in the face. Doesn't mean that she didn't tell Brady to not stab her in the face. It literally says that she might have just closed her eyes while it happened.
Shiesty.
She could have been there, but you know, she closed her eyes.
Super sus.
Like, that's the kind of stuff they play, but they play like 4D chess with it. So just avoid the Fae. I think that's your best bet in life.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Okay, so as much as I can, and as much as I have been able to, as I sweat constantly in this recording closet, I hope that this made Titania the summer queen of the Seelie Fae crystal clear. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, listen!
follow us on Threads and Insta at Wormsong Media. That's WYRMSONG Media. Want to reach out to us? Email us at wormsongmedia@gmail. Again, that's WYRMSONGMEDIA@gmail.